In early 1983, Marshall of Cambridge, an aircraft maintenance, modification and design company located at Cambridge City Airport, began the construction of a giant hangar on the northwestern edge of the airfield. Within 6 weeks, several residents living in the area began to complain about severe ghosting on their television pictures, which only appeared since work on the hangar began. This is the untold story of the Cambridge hangar ghost. Ghosting is a phenomenon where a faint, delayed or blurry image of the previous frame is superimposed on the current image. The residents claimed the ghosting effect was so pronounced that it completely ruined any enjoyment from watching television. This sort of ghosting is often caused when a TV signal travels by two different paths to a receiving antenna with a slight difference in timing. It was suspected that televisions close to the hangar were receiving their signals from the Sandy Heath transmitter 17 miles to the southwest, but also a strong reflection off the new hangar, which was slightly delayed, therefore causing the ghosting effect. One resident called in a company called Television Mobile Services, which operated from nearby Seymour Street, less than a mile southwest of the hangar, and found that it was also experiencing the same ghosting on its own sets. The company director, Doug Hopper, said by measuring the length of the ghosting, he'd calculated that the signal was being reflected by a building under 2 miles away. He was convinced it was the new hangar at Cambridge Airfield. Marshall of Cambridge's airport manager Les Wordle was told about the ghosting and basically said that although the timing coincided, it didn't mean the hangar was the reason for the problem. There were concerns amongst residents that the television interference could become worse when the hangar was clad. British Telecom, which dealt with complaints about television interference, said there was no obligation to ensure that buildings didn't block or reflect signals. The BBC's Engineering Information Department was also contacted, and they said the service to at least 500 people would have to be badly affected before they qualified for an additional remedial broadcasting aerial to be installed, and by this they meant a new localised transmit aerial for homes to retune to. Marshall said it would investigate the matter further, but construction of the new multi-million-pound hangar continued. During the next few weeks, more and more residents began to complain of interference as work on the hangar progressed. Romsey Town's television ghost was now haunting more than 150 homes in the area. Peter Lonsdale, head of the liaison section in the BBC's engineering department, said he was surprised that television reception interference was not considered by city planners. I would have considered such a large building would have definitely affected television reception. Any large construction reflects reception over quite a large area, he said. In his opinion, the hangar could have been redesigned so that it reflected signals into open space. The interference caused by the building was unusual, and Cambridge city planners hadn't come across it before, and nobody anticipated it. A Mr. A. Taylor from the council said he didn't think councillors would have refused the hangar, which was to bring more jobs to Marshall's, on the grounds that it may have affected television reception. He said the council would function as agents if the BBC could confirm that the cause of the interference was the hangar to arrange a solution to the problem with Marshall's. By June 1983, a group of Romsey residents began conducting door-to-door surveys to establish how many homes were affected, and early results showed that at least 150 were haunted by the ghost. The BBC also agreed to survey the district to try and uncover the source of the interference. Marshall also called in experts to see what could be done to stop it. Local councillor Peter Wright headed up the quest to solve the issue after dealing with similar interference caused by a new shopping centre. He said that a number of people had changed their television receiving aerials and some people had bought new television sets. He advised people against buying new aerials or sets just yet. A lot of people in Romsey were being poorly advised to get new aerials or television sets, but it would have made no difference. Residents were told to wait and see, and it was suggested that there was the distinct possibility that cladding on the outside of the new hangar building, covering the internal metal framework, might cure the ghosting problems. In the July, BBC engineers conducted a 2-day investigation in Romsey. They stirred the hornet's nest by telling residents that their survey could not identify the source of the ghosting as the new giant hangar. They also claimed that there may be a remedy, but it would cost each household £30. That's about £100 today. The BBC claimed that the survey had shown that good reception could be restored if a special log periodic aerial was installed in the affected homes, which would cost about £30. Of course, local residents were outraged at the thought of forking out £30 when it wasn't their fault. The BBC engineers also claimed that a much bigger pole would be needed on the houses, which would create an eyesore. The angry residents inundated the council with complaints. City solicitor Mike Ball was contacted and said that the council was keen to overcome any problems with television reception in the area, and he planned to consult marshals to try and find a solution. Within 10 days, the angry residents were informed that they may not be forced to replace their aerials after all, as City Council officials were pressing for booster equipment to be installed on the hangar. Councillor Peter Wright was negotiating with Marshals Aerospace to install this remedial equipment on the site. 3 months later in October, things were no closer to being sorted. The hangar was complete and it was clad, but the ghosting issue continued. The BBC ordered a second survey in which engineer Charles Hope ultimately cleared the new Marshall hangar of any fault. His survey found that inadequate television aerials were to blame. The City Council was asked to test the BBC theory that the problem was due to inefficient aerials by paying to install the recommended type, now costing £40, in some of the worst hit homes. Meanwhile, residents in Romsey knew full well that the hangar was to blame and had all been told that a new log periodic aerial would solve the problem. They were insulted by the assumption by engineer Charles Hope that their reception was, quote, probably not all that good beforehand. 2 residents did some investigation work and found that turning their aerials away from Sandy Heath transmitter and aiming them directly at the hangar improved the ghosting issue somewhat. It wasn't perfect, but both of their TVs were now watchable. This was proof that the reflected signal from the hangar was extremely strong enough to give a reception as good as that from Sandy Heath. By May of 1984, after a year of frustration, dissatisfied city councillors commissioned an independent expert to investigate, and were told in a report from the engineer that the hangar was the cause of the trouble. Peter Wright took this to marshals, and talks were in place between council officials and the airport authorities to see if they could help in finding a solution to the ghosting problems. The issue rumbled on for some months until in September 1984 the City Council was considering making grants from the rates towards buying new television aerials for Romsey residents. But first, councillors wanted to determine just how many people's televisions were affected, so Peter Wright asked for unhappy viewers to contact him either at his home or through the Cambridge Guildhall to get an idea of the numbers involved. The worst affected areas were Seymour Road, Cyprus Road, Suez Road, Vinery Road, and parts of Mill Road. Councillors also received complaints from viewers in Nuttings Road, Marlborough Road and Cromwell Road. Independent investigators claim that the problem might be solved by the new log periodic aerials being tuned to the Sudbury transmitter instead of Sandy Heath. When they had a concrete idea of the number of homes affected, and with expert suggestions for new aerials pointing to a new transmitter, Peter Wright and the City Council's legal department intended to ask the council to help pay for the new aerials and other equipment. Cambridge Airport authorities had already given £21,000 towards the investigations, but Peter Wright went back to ask if they'd like to contribute more. By December 1984, it was established that over 350 homes were being affected by the television ghosting, and airport authorities had given an additional £1,000 towards solving the problem. Peter Count, chairman of the Environment Committee, was trying to persuade members of the committee to approve a scheme to get in a firm of TV aerial experts to conduct improvements, and the council put aside £10,000 for these works. By March 1985, just 120 of the 350 residents affected accepted the City Council's scheme to provide new aerials, which were expected to solve the problem of interference. But why were the numbers so low? Well, the council reduced its £10,000 budget to £6,500 and asked residents to contribute £10 to improve their existing aerials, or £35 if they had no outdoor aerial present. This explained the drop in affected homes. They felt that the council and marshals should have taken complete responsibility for the full cost of the new aerials. Many affected residents indicated in a questionnaire their reservation and frustration about having to make a £10 contribution towards the work required. They were further angered to find out that the actual cost would be £35 if they had no outdoor aerial. The £35 cost was also slapped on homes that had aerials over 10 years old. Despite this, the works went ahead, and the Cambridge Hangar ghost was finally exorcised.